Everybody else is making them. And we hear them on the radio, we'd hear these songs on the radio, and we'd think, God, what a stupid song to cover. I could think of so many better songs to do than that. And we all felt like that, so we just decided to do our own.
I think Duran Duran's version of Perfect Day is possibly the best re-recording of a song of mine that I've heard. It's absolutely wild about it.
Such a perfect day, you just keep me hanging on.
We're all sort of free spirits. We're very committed to the band, but we don't have the sort of paranoia anymore of somebody going and doing something. And if somebody wants to go and do another project for a few months here or whatever, it's all quite possible. I'm sure people will do different things.
You're so mean. Do you know what I mean? You're unkind.
Is this a chance for you to become a little bit more rock-oriented?
Well, the biggest hit we had, the last couple of years was Ordinary World, and my contribution to that song was, it's too slow, guys. It's too slow. I didn't want to get hung up on that, in that ballad kind of. I felt it was a trap. So this is like, without really going out and looking for it, this appeared.
From that queen, baby. She don't love me.
As a musician, you're always fighting against being pigeonholed. It's something that the industry wants to do to you and the press wants to do to you, and it's always something we're trying to get away from. We like all sorts of music. We don't want to be just playing on one kind of music all our lives.
Is it difficult to look back when you're still active in it?
It's not difficult to look back. I mean, it's not that we don't sort of finish work and then sit in the bus on the way back to the hotel and go, remember the good old days. We kind of, we play songs that we wrote, over 15 years ago, and we play them good in front of an audience that really love it when we play them. We get a big thrill off that. They do remind us of when we wrote them. They do kind of remind us that we've got a history, and it's a great history. It's a great fun history. That's really what it is for us.
What's interesting to us, I suppose, is when we put together the live show and we look at, now a 20-year catalogue of songs to choose from, it's quite good that we can miss out 4 number ones and still have a 2-hour set,
Some of the songs that I love the most are the ones that, in a way, are the biggest millstones around our necks, things like The Reflex. I absolutely love doing that. I don't know, it takes me somewhere very special. It doesn't transport me to a time, it just brings the time back up to where I am. And I can see it working on other people in the audience when we play it live as well. It's an amazing thing, that is.
Duran Duran in 1997, I think, are as fresh as we were in 1980. This album, the Midazoland album, represents our sound for the 90s in the same way that Rio did in the 1980s.
When you think about radio programs and their perceptions, it's like we're a band who's an older band who's been around for over a decade and a half, who can make really up-to-date modern music. And they don't know how to deal with that.
Well, you know what, though, but people didn't want that Duran Duran. That's the other thing. People don't want Simon and Nick Duran Duran, or Simon and Nick and Warren Duran Duran. They want the 5 guys. People weren't excited about that band. It wasn't what I wanted. I'm the singer, and Nick was the keyboard player, and we were in the original band, and 2 just didn't cut it. But it was the best we could do.
I guess you've known it for a while. Did I mean trouble? The hardest thing is to let go. When love is real.
You have to go through different periods of ups and downs to figure out exactly what it is that you do want to do.
Is there a sense of competing with your past?
No, you got to sleep with it,
Yeah,
but not compete with it.
it's deep.
So you feel that what you're doing is going to be something that will carry over through the entire 80s?
Oh yes, and well into the 90s, maybe even into the 21st century.
The hardest thing is to let go when love is real.
Pop Trash, tongue-in-cheek title. Is it a poke at the business?
It's not really a poke at the business at all. It's, I think it's just, I think we see this kind of pop trash culture that surrounds us, i.e. television, pop, music, art and commercialism, and all the edges have become very blurred, and that to us is pop trash, and that was just a statement. It's just kind of saying, well, that's kind of how it is, but it doesn't mean it's not valid. And funny enough, we fit right into that. And here's our album.
You can't face it. The hardest thing is to let go.
Well, what's happening to Backstreet Boys and NSYNC these days? Bands like that are marketed to get that reaction. It didn't happen with Duran Duran to seek
Well,
out.
the thing is, I think the hugest difference between Duran Duran and the pop acts that are around today is that our background was very different. And we came from a real rock
singer,
background.
songwriter, the whole thing.
The Beatles,
Yeah.
the Stones, David Bowie, Roxy Music, punk rock.
We weren't showbiz. We didn't have like a showbiz attitude to the whole thing, whereas I think that's the big difference. It's much more a kind of show business, professional approach, given that they're very young and they're having a great time too. And power to them. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing.
And oh lordy, we can't dance.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I've seen you dancing.
And that was post-choreographer.
Yeah.
But I know you're meant to give yourself to someone else, not me.
I think people have always kind of felt that pop is disposable. Popular songs, they're there for the moment and then they go. That's fine. And that's how it is. I think what you're talking about now more though is an industry that's geared to bands or artists that maybe have 2 albums, and then they get left behind, and they get the A&R department picks up somebody new. The marketing campaign starts. They build the curve up very steeply. Hang on in there for a couple of years and then just let go.
We always seem to be answering to or talking to people who know more about business than they do about music. And, you know, it's like, we know the business has its place and everything, but it's too damn corporate.
There's always been this a bit of a conflict of interest within a record company. And that is, on the one hand, you've got the guys who want to like just bring in whatever it takes and make as much money for the investors and shareholders as possible. And on the other hand, you've got people who really believe in music and the art, and they want to be the channel that brings the music from the artist to the people. There's always been an argument between those two camps, and at the moment, it's the guys in suits that are winning.
What have you learned about this business at this point?
Business sucks. Making music is fantastic. So 20 years of making music is wonderful.
You have to go through different periods of ups and downs to figure out exactly what it is that you do want to do and what you like about it. The business side of it really is very harsh. You know, it really is dog eat dog, and you know, it's a tough one to survive, particularly for the younger acts. I wonder how we survived it.
Don't you say this is coming out? No more heroes, it's just to shout. Oh no, not me, it's not too late and I'm nervous. I'm not taking anymore.
Are you calling it a reunion?
No, we're not. I think we had a reunion tour, which was the first time we played together for 15 years, and that was last year. We came here. That was the reunion. This is the next Duran Duran. This is the next phase in Duran Duran.
It's difficult to have a reunion when the band's actually always been around.
Yeah.
He was reunited with himself.
Yeah. The way I look at it is that Nick and I hung on to it and we kept it going. It wasn't how we wanted it, but Nick and I particularly felt we had to keep it going. And, you know, in the back of our minds, this is what we were waiting for. I've got to say thank you to all you people out here. everybody watching this on TV. We've had an amazing time over the last couple of months. We've been writing songs, we've been recording, and it really kicks ass. I love these guys. This is half the reason we got back together. The other half is out there. Thank you.
There's no handbook. There's no rock and roll handbook. So it's not like, here's a list of things you have to do for it to be okay. If music can motivate you and drive you, then everyone jumps on board and it moves. And so that's really what we did. We got together, talked about it, but none of that was difficult. Everyone was in the right frame of mind, clear, that contractually, personally, no one was, in a hole, whatever. And we decided that, we had to make an album, really, because the creative relationship was the thing that brought us together. And we jumped into that. And pretty much from the get-go, it was like, oh yeah, right, bang, Rog starts playing. And I'm like, you've been playing all the time. He said, of course, I've always had my kit set up. He said, you just never come around and play with me. I'm like, yeah, it's true.
What's happened in the past couple of years? Did it surprise you, the respect from the industry, the Lifetime Achievement Awards,
it surprised us.
press clamoring to talk to you?
It surprised us that people actually came out and said it.
I just want to say I love you guys. This is like a dream for me.
We all kind of had a suspicion it was there, because people would always tell us, oh man, I love Duran Duran.
You guys set the standard for rock star videos.
You guys are so great. You're the reason I started off in music.
Make some noise. Duran Duran is on stage, y'all.
We've heard that so many times. But for it to actually become public and for it to be on the screen and for people to say that is a whole new thing for us.
Is there an indication that there's new fans coming along or young fans coming along for the ride?
Well, if you looked at our audience, all our audience that we played to all last year, really, starting off in Japan, coming through America, going back to the UK, you would say yes, because there's consistently been a growing number of teenagers in our audiences. And why they're there is, we don't give them questionnaires, so we don't know if it's their mums and dads turn them on, or if they're just into like retro music, or if they just hear Duran Duran and think, oh, I want some of that too.
That's the thing that's sort of really blown our minds, is how many people have came back to the band and bought concert tickets and stuff. I mean, you couldn't make up the dream once, but twice.
Is there a sense of competing with your past?
No.
No. You've got to sleep with it,
Yeah.
but not compete with it.
It's deep. We're not stupid enough to think we could compete with the past, because you can't. Because you really can't repeat history and for it to be as fresh and spontaneous and as much fun as it was. So we do a new thing, and that's fresh and spontaneous. And then in a couple of years' time, this will be our history. And people will be going, are you going to try and compete with your history, when you came back with astronauts? If you're going to do anything interesting, you've got to get out on the edge, which is one of the reasons we called our album Astronauts, because it's going out there. And the other reason is it's got a big, shiny helmet.
Whose helmet?
It's the band's collective helmet.
Band's collective shiny helmet.
Enter your life.
We can trivialise ourselves. We're allowed to. We've been around long enough to. But yet we have got a relevance, and that is that we seem to be able to make statements with our music and our songs, our lyrics, that kind of bring people together, that make people feel better about themselves. Because we put into words the kind of feeling that people have and maybe haven't really identified yet. And we're not the only people who do it, but it's a great job.
Don't say